My 5 most favorite things about the RMS Titanic and the one thing that I hate. Hey there, and welcome aboard my ship of fools. I'm Terry the Terrible, and I'm going to share with you my 5 most favorite things about the RMS Titanic and the one thing I just do not like. Most people begin with number 1 or number 5, but I'm going to start at neither and go right to number 3. Number 3. My number 3 reason I love the Titanic is Marsha. Okay, so back in the day, White Star Lines planned to make a trio of sister ships, the Olympic, the Titanic, and the Gigantic. They made Olympic first, and when completed, she was the largest ship ever built. Everyone loved her. She was famous. And in any place in the world, people knew of the Olympic, a testament to the ingenuity of modern man. And then they built the Titanic. And because they made little improvements off of what they learned in the construction of the Olympic, the Titanic was not only better, but bigger. But somehow, Olympic was still everyone's favorite. And maybe that's because she was the world's first biggest ship. Number 4. I never watched James Cameron's Titanic because A, I like history and facts, and B, spoiler alert, I know it sinks. And also because the 2 main characters were fictional. Why? Why would you do that? There were so many real-life people on that ship who deserved to have their story told. But all the same, I love Jack and Rose memes and GIFs. Pretty much anything with Jack and Rose on the Titanic that makes me smile to literally laugh out loud. They're all old now and no one is making new ones, but every once in a while, somebody manages to pull it off. Number 2. I love that there is so much history to explore about the Titanic that does not involve disturbing the wreckage on the bottom of the sea. There are so many books on the subject that I feel comfortable saying no matter what angle or take you want the Titanic to have, there's a book on it. In fact, it's hard not to find one that gives just the facts. But if you want the very first book ever written about the Titanic, you must get and read The Sinking of the Titanic and Great Sea Disasters. It literally came out almost 1 month to the day that the ship sank. Now, I will warn you, it is not what many Titanic historians would call accurate. In fact, I would describe it as sensational, near-yellow, journalistic, late Victorian era writing at its best. For instance, this book has many direct quotes from survivors who say things like, when the Titanic struck the iceberg, it made a horrifically loud sound, jostled the ship, and everyone knew something was wrong. They would go on to describe panic to the point of crewmen shooting passengers to enforce the women and children first rule of the sea. It paints a very different picture than reality, or the one told in my favorite book, A Night to Remember, where there is civility, heroics, and bravery. And P.S., the movie A Night to Remember was also very well done, and you can watch it for free on Tubi. Number 1. There is a story connected to the Titanic that is pure fantasy, but I love it. It is about Rigel, the Newfoundland dog. He did not exist, he never existed, and the story says that he was owned by crewman Officer Murdoch, who can neither confirm nor deny this ownership as he conveniently went down with the Titanic when she sank. But the story goes that someone opened all the kennels on the Titanic before she sank. And honestly, that part is true. And it was almost certainly J.J. Astor, literally the richest man in the world, who was trying to rescue his beloved Airedale dog, Kitty. Anyway, the story goes that one of the dogs was a Newfoundland named Rigel. The story claims Rigel did a Superman dive into the water and swam to the first drowning person he happened upon, grabbed them by the scruff of their life jacket, and doggy paddled them to the nearest lifeboat. The story claims Rigel saved 11 lives before succumbing to the cold and slipping beneath the 28-degree water to surface never again, no more. In other versions of the story, he managed to doggy paddle in the 28-degree water until help arrived and alerted the rescue ship to the location of the lifeboat by baying and barking. And it was only after the lifeboat was spotted and nearly rescued that Rigel succumbed to the freezing temperatures and slipped beneath the surface, never to be seen again. Number 5. The thing I love most about the Titanic is that it allowed you to take your pet on board, if you could afford it. It had a kennel for your dog companion and would also let you go and take it out and walk it every day. But if your fur baby was small enough, you could keep him or her in your room. How awesome is that? Additionally, there were other animals on board the ship, like 4 roosters and a bunch of hens, a songbird, and 30 cockerels. Contrary to rumor, there was not a pet pig on board. The pig that everybody talks about was a toy pig named Maxine, made of paper mache, and it played music when its tail was wound. There was also no horse on board, or a herd of horses on board, because they literally missed the boat. And there was no herd of cow or of the dairy variety. It is true that ships used to keep a cow or 8 on board for fresh milk and possibly later a steak, but not the Titanic. It had refrigeration. Okay, so now the thing I hate most about the Titanic, and I'm going to preface this thing, I hate the wreck. And no, not because it's there. What I mean is, I'm perfectly okay with the steel-eating bacteria, humbly named Halamanos titanicae, consuming the wreck. In fact, if scientists are correct, there is not more than 30 years left of the wreckage, maybe half that. As the bacteria eats, it grows what looks like rust sickles, and eventually these rust sickles weigh so much, and because of their consumption, weaken part of the hull, which then crashes down onto the next part of the ship. And I am okay with this, and environmentalists should be happy, because as it turns out, the Titanic is 100% biodegradable. And there are not many places on the bottom of the ocean where this poor little bacteria can thrive and live its best bacterium life. Is a steel-eating bacteria as sexy as saving the spotted owl? No. Will anyone see you saving the bacterium and getting you the attention you so desperately crave? No. But if all life is sacred and deserves a chance to live, then so does the humbly named Halamanos titanicae. Because the wreck of the Titanic is a grave site. Yes, bodies were recovered, 300-ish in fact. A few of these recovered bodies were officially buried at sea. Some remains were buried in Nova Scotia, and less than like a dozen bodies were recognizable enough by the families to be put into the earth. But people were on board that ship when it sank. The engineers in the engine room and the mail clerks in the mail room, they all went down with the ship and died, and so did a lot of other people. Their bodies were there for as long as it takes to decompose at that depth and temperature. It seems like somebody is always wanting to go there and touch it and take pictures and loot the final resting place of so many. And yes, I feel that way about grave robbing the ancient Egyptian tombs as well. But at least with that, knowledge can be gained, and for the most part, in modern times at least, it's not for personal financial gains. Plus, the remains almost always stay in Egypt. But that is a topic for another video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and until next time, hasta la bye-bye.